Connecticut is set to become the first state in the nation to give baby bonds to children born into low-income families. The trusts will give $3,200 to children whose parents rely on Medicaid. They can access the money when they turn 18. Connecticut will set aside $50 million a year to pay for the accounts. The bonds will hopefully be worth nearly $11,000 by the time the recipients gain access. Democratic Governor Ned Lamont is expected to sign the baby bonds into law. They would go into effect Thursday. Connecticut State Treasurer Shawn Wooden has been one of the main advocates for the baby bonds. His office will be responsible for managing the trusts. And Shawn Wooden joins me now. Hi, Shawn. Great to see you. So, first off, what inspired you to fight for this bill?
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me on. This bill, given the times that we're in, increasing wealth disparities in society, racial inequity, really felt like we needed our public policy and our legislative session this year to be responsive to this moment and to meet it head on. And from our research, baby bonds is one of the most constructive ways to close the wealth gap based on a Columbia University 2019 study analyzing the federal proposal, which has not been enacted. It concluded that it is one of the most powerful tools to closing racial economic disparities among young adults. And so that is what caused me to propose this and to champion this into passage.
And how exactly will the state of Connecticut fund these baby bonds?
This is funded through $50 million a year in general obligation bonds authorized for the next 12 years. And so initially a $600 million commitment towards this program, and looking forward to investing that money over time and growing it, the initial amount, to when the babies are 18 or older. It's actually 18 to 30 when the funds can be claimed. And we expect that to be worth approximately $11,000 at the earlier end.
And how many children are you expecting will qualify for the bonds each year?
Just based on looking back in recent years, it's approximately 16,000 babies a year, and born throughout actually every town in Connecticut, which some people are surprised to hear. But this is statewide.
And Shawn, once these bonds then become available to eligible 18-year-olds, what can they spend that money on? And do you worry that, 18 is still a little young? Some people might not be mature enough to handle that windfall at that age.
Sure. A couple of notions on that. First, there is a component in the bill that actually requires a financial literacy coursework prior to being eligible to receive the funds. So that's critically important, because it's not just giving a check. It's not just giving hope. It's also giving some education prior to receiving the funds. In addition to that, there are 4 categories, all metrics tied to wealth disparities. 1, it can be used for education. 2, down payment on a home, so towards home ownership. 3, investment in a business or some entrepreneurial pursuit. And 4th is retirement security. And again, it's from age 18 to 30. And so the 18-year-old, more likely than not, would be looking at supporting higher education with the funds if they tapped into it that early. The 28-year-old may be looking at a down payment on a home, or something of that sort.
And so they can elect to continue to leave the money in bonds and take it out later, right? They don't have to take it out at 18.
That's correct. That is very much
so. And so, Shawn, how did you come up with those specific restrictions? Is that based on, sort of past research? And how did you find that families changed their own spending and saving habits when they knew their children had a little nest egg like that?
Well, yes. So this is based on a lot of research around poverty, around race disparities, income disparities. And so that's the underpinnings from a policy perspective. Also, I manage our state's 529 college savings program called CHET, and it's just what it sounds. It's higher education, and so what you see with programs like this is that when there is a nest egg, that increases the likelihood of advancement, of upward mobility. There's a study that recently came out of another state where they showed the behavior of parents and families actually changed once they had a little college savings put away. And I would expect this to be similar. So often in many zip codes in our state and in this nation, there's a lack of hope, right? So it's hard to dream and to think about higher education if you don't see a pathway to get there. It's hard to think about owning a home if you've never, or your parents and grandparents never owned a home. And so this is intended to break generational cycles of poverty, close racial economic disparities, as well as be an economic boost to our state because those funds are recycled into home ownership in Connecticut, investing in a business in Connecticut, and simply closing wealth disparities. And as you may know, Connecticut is ground zero for the wealth gap and income disparities. And so I'm very proud that I could champion this legislation to make us ground zero for actually doing something about it in a very, very transformative way.
Are you worried down the line, though, about funding it? Connecticut, of course, just announced a budget surplus, but there are concerns about a potential fiscal cliff in a couple of years when billions in federal stimulus dollars expire. Are you doing something to plan for that?
Well, right now, the plan is for 12 years. And then I would say for government, that's very much a long-term funding plan. And absolutely, we will be looking down the road. But Connecticut, we are on a very strong trajectory in terms of our finances. Since I've come into office in 2019, we've had across the board, 4 major credit rating agencies upgrades our credit standing. And so our cash flow, has been very, very positive. And so there's certainly significant challenges ahead. But really, this is about prioritizing certain policy initiatives. And our state legislature has decided to prioritize addressing generational poverty, the racial wealth gap, by investing into this program. And we're doing so at a time when Connecticut is achieving historically low interest rates and lots of demand to invest in our general obligation bonds.
Well, Connecticut State Treasurer Shawn Wooden, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tanya.